Chapter 19. Brian. I left this beautiful childlike man in bed to rush over to coffee, tea and thee. What the fuck now? I thought as I wandered into the shop, half sleepy and half sexually frustrated. It didn't look like there was a problem at first sight. I continued and ambled through customers, taking notice of customers enjoying their coffee and talking. Some had books out reading with legs crossed in the large leather chairs and sofas. That was until I reached the tea section, and from the body language, his hands flaying, he was arguing with one of my baristas who had his back to me. I didn't recognize him until I walked between them. "What is it, Miles? Do you know what I was doing?" Maybe I shouldn't have asked that question, because there stood Kenneth with his hands on his hips, giving Miles plenty of grief. "This guy says that he's the manager, and you made me manager the other day, remember?" I closed my eyes and raked my hands through my hair and took a deep breath. "Look, let's take all of this into Caden's office. You can't be standing out here arguing and calling me for this shit." It was a good thing that the tea section hadn't gotten busy yet. That was usually later in the day, but there were a few die-hard tea drinkers buying large canisters to take home. When I cut my eyes at Kenneth and he smiled, it appeared my past had caught up with me. I had hired Kenneth and given him a salary to manage the shop at night, and not told him or Miles. I just had one date to a restaurant with him, and I realized that he was a valuable asset that I shouldn't fuck around with, and besides, Caden had warned me that the dating had to stop. I trooped to the office and the guys followed me inside. I sat behind the desk where I could look at both of them, while they took seats on opposite sides of the sofa, crossed their arms and stared each other down, then turned their attention to me. "I'm the day manager," Kenneth said. "And Miles, who just got here, doesn't have the right to come in this shop and boss me and everyone else around." "Who died and left him boss?" "The crew is talking." Kenneth turned to Miles. "You got promoted because you held Mr. Cornell's feet to the fire. Your brother Taylor, that pervert, was stripping and showing his cock to Mr. Cornell." I rolled my eyes. "Oh, for Christ's sake," I thought as I tried to calm this down. "Call me Brian. I don't like the title of Mr. Cornell." "Brian? I have my classes scheduled, and I can't work at night. Miles here doesn't have classes. He's not in college. Tell him I'm the day manager, Brian, will you, so I can go outside and cover a station, because he let someone off for the day. I wanted to go to the state fair, but I couldn't." I had to turn to Miles and admit that I forgot to tell him that Kenneth was the day manager, because he had more experience than Miles, and Kenneth's major was in business, and Caden wanted him during the day. "Kenneth is correct, Miles. I apologize, because I'd forgotten that when I hired you. I did hire him as the day manager, and you're the night one." Kenneth turned to Miles and twisted his mouth. "There. See, I told you so." And Kenneth stuck out his tongue at Miles. Why the fuck did I hire so many young people? I must have lost my mind and forgotten how I behaved at the tender age of 18 and 19. Which brought me back to Val. I had to get back to him soon. I needed to solidify our relationship. "Kenneth, will you excuse me and Miles? I have to talk to him." Kenneth twisted his mouth and sauntered out of the office. "Look, Miles, it's my mistake and I will put something extra in your pay. The night position isn't bad, and it pays more. There are more personnel at night for you to oversee." I appealed to Miles' tendencies to want to be a leader. "However, you have to remember there is a mix of men and women and people older than yourself, and even customers in that age range. Be mindful of how you talk to them. The tea section is busy, and the coffee crowd comes in just before closing if..." "I'm not at all disappointed, and thank you for the raise, I appreciate it." "Good, and all is settled?" "Yes." And Miles rose from his chair. "Thank you, Brian, for finding a job for Taylor. He can be a handful. I had to take care of him since we were children. I have an older sister too, but when she left for college, she never came back to Nevermore. It's been just me and Taylor. How is Taylor doing anyway, at Wounded Inked? Mostly he complains about Parker on his ass. It seems he's more of a sergeant than his husband Tony. Parker must be giving him a hard time. He needs the money, and that's the only way he's staying there. He said something about Parker assigning him to the disabled vets. He has to do a lot of running around and pushing wheelchairs. Miles laughed. It must be good physical work, I added. Yeah. Work is good for everyone, and especially my brother. He thought he could get his way through life with his body and showing off his cock, until you. I'm sorry the way things went down, Brian. I appreciate everything you've done, and you won't regret it. When Miles left the office, I hoped I didn't regret hiring him and handing Taylor off to Parker, who appeared to be able to deal with him. After catching my breath, I called Val. It took him time to answer the phone, and that was a good indication that he'd gotten some much-needed rest. Hi, baby. B, when are you coming back? I miss you. The sound of his voice made my heart thrum in my chest. I had to place my hand to quiet it. None of the others, including my husband, had made me feel that they cared whether I was around or not. I was not trying to give an excuse for being an absent husband and all-around dick. When it came to me, I had been anything but faithful, and I never got the feeling that any one of the men I'd fucked around with wanted me for myself. Now I'd found that one, and I didn't want to lose him, because I didn't have the time to devote to this new relationship. This new love. I knew what I had to do, and I would do anything to keep and protect it. I had a small problem, baby, and I need to clear everything up and stop by Wounded Inked and talk to Parker. Call your boss at the bar and ask him for a night off, and if he doesn't give it, tell him that you'll get him a replacement, and after you train him or her, then you will be permanently retired from the bar business to go to college. Are you serious? Val said, his voice light and playful. Of course I am. When it comes to you, I am always serious. Could you tell me where the nearest bank is, and can I walk there? I need to open an account and deposit this check. For some reason I feel as if I could walk and run a marathon, Val revealed. I feel the same, baby, I added. I gave him directions to the bank downtown, but he couldn't walk that distance. The nearest banks were either downtown, or the closest one would be on Main Street near the college. You can take a taxi service and... I know what you want to say, but I can pay for it, Val reminded me. He'd always been a working child, and now a man, and paid for everything. Now he really did have some money, and he wanted the freedom to use it. I could relate to that. My family had always been hand and mouth, afraid we'd lose our home and living on the street sometimes. The people in this town took care of their own, and they'd raise money to help out. There were no GoFundMe sites then. Eventually, the house was taken when my parents died. It wasn't until I was 35 that I cracked the code and became a businessman who knew how to raise money, and bought into several small businesses and helped them make money for the owners and myself. After I left Nevermore as a young man, I thought I'd done enough to help Scott, because I was trying to get something for myself. I'd taken care of him the best I could under the circumstances, and he was a man then. When I finally did get myself together financially, Scott didn't want a handout from me. He was a man who always thought he could do it on his own, and he finally did. Lane had been Scott's saving grace while I fucked around and threw my money away on fast cars and even faster young men who knew how to separate me from my money. Scott met Lane, and he was the one who helped him get his nurse's license, while Lane put his degree on hold. Each had made the sacrifice for the other. I hoped to get that sometime in my life, and I thought I had.